Hello, and welcome to the 46th episode of Trollin HGC, a Here's the Storm podcast, and for whatever reason I am hearing myself in my headset one sec.
That might be me, hold on.
No, it was me, because I'm a bum.
Okay.
I had Twitch open in the background and everything. That's how we started, boys. That's how we started. Again, welcome to Trollin HGC, a Heroes of the Storm podcast focused on esports and a member of the Trolls.gg Entertainment Network. I'm your host, GOONHOTS. LiQuid couldn't be here today. He's slacking off. And joined, as always, I've got Bahgz. How you doing, Bahgz?
What's up? Let me tell you, even though LiQuid isn't here, it wouldn't be an episode of Trolling HGC if there wasn't some sort of small blip to keep us from going smoothly through the introduction. But I'm glad to be here.
That's true. That's true. Thanks for being out here.
I'm making you feel better, man. I'm just trying to make you feel better. It's tradition.
Appreciate it. And today we have a special guest. We've got freaking JHow in the house. How you doing, man? Welcome.
Chilling, enjoying the downtime and the California weather, so it's not too bad.
Right on, right on. Speaking of California weather, I mean, how hot is it there right now?
I think today's the hottest it's been in like a week and a half, and it's probably like mid-70s, so it's pretty nice right now.
Poggers, dude. Holy cow. That's pretty
awesome, man.
Enjoy it while it lasts, all right? Because I'm sure you're going to be hating yourself here in a couple months, or like a few weeks maybe.
After living in Florida for 11 years, I'm okay with it.
Really? I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
The muggy heat to the dry heat.
That's true. That is true. I grew up in Georgia. I know what you're talking about. And I'm sure there's less bugs in California, too. Less gnats and mosquitoes and stuff like this. Right on. Anyways, thanks for being on, man. Appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time out to join us today. Bahgz, before we get started, you want to go over to Patreon?
Absolutely. So Trolls.gg, it's the all-encompassing network of all the products we do, like Nexus Trolls, Nexus Feud, Bush League, all that stuff. Trolling HG, all shared by the Trolls.gg Patreon account. And there you can find the stretch goals that we have, including what we're working towards right now, where we're at $38 of $150 a month call-in show. So once we reach that $150 a month goal, we will have a call-in show where anyone who listens to the show, reads the articles on the website, can take that opportunity to send us our questions, and we'll do a special show where we answer them. We've also acquired a brand new chieftain, Preston. Thank you for your patronage, and we look forward to providing you more content. You guys can donate $1, $10 a month. It's up to you, however you want to handle that. But all of that goes towards us helping us provide more content for you. So keep it up.
Right on. And with that being said, who's our troll of the week? You got something. I know you got something.
JHow's our troll of the week for being, of all the people we reached out to, for joining us here on the show tonight. And I, he's popped in Twitch chat a couple times, so I know he's been around to listen to the show a couple times.
I get around.
Right on. Cool. Well, with that being said, let's get right into the news.
Tonight on the Trolls.gg Podcast Network, Trollin HGC proudly presents Heroes eSports News, Notes, and Drama with your hosts, LiQuiud and Bahgz.
All right, so some pretty interesting things popping up here and there in the world of HGC, Heroes eSports. Bahgz, what's going on, man? Tell me about it.
First things first, Relic, owner of Good Luck's spot in the Korean HGC, was suspended from the HGC for a year and fined $1,500 US and relieved of his ownership of the team. Relic violated the league's rules against poaching, which disallows team owners from contacting players on different active rosters to propose joining their team or another team. Gluck's new ownership will be resolved by June 19th, in time for the beginning of HGC Phase 2. That is word for word from the press release on the HGC website.
Poaching. So, for those that don't know, that are listening to the show on Reddit stumbled across this or whatever the case may be, what is poaching? Like, what does that entail? What's the whole thing with that? Player poaching. Any one of you. It's all right.
Well, as I understand it, when someone's signed to a contract on a team, they are not able to be approached with offers about, or even like consider, or even having conversations with team owners about moving to other teams until that contract is null and void, whether they be released or whether they are their contract ends and they become a free agent. As I understand it. Yeah. I could be wrong. I don't know if either of you have a different understanding of it, but that's how I understand it.
I mean, the way that I see it, I'm a huge sports fan, NBA especially, but I follow a lot of sports, and this is pretty common. And I always struggle when it comes to how do you make the esports comparison to the real sports, because everybody's like, look, that's pro sports. And I'm like, yes, but this is a professional league. I mean, just this past year, I mean, somebody like Magic Johnson, who's the president of the Lakers, tweeted about a person, right? And it's like, because he has part ownership, like you can't go around talking, right? Because it could insinuate, hey, we would like you here. And if the league does grow larger in a sense that, hey, look, this is a very professional environment, Blizzard, and I can't speak for any of it, right? But my understanding, right, we have ownership now. All teams require ownership. So it's one of those things that as it continues to evolve, you kind of take away the element. Look, it's almost impossible to get players to not talk to each other, whether it's the NBA, whether it's Heroes of the Storm, whether it's any sport. People have friends, but you take away the owner element out of it. And I think that's one of the things that they're going to, continue to look at. And I don't think it's uncommon when you look at organized environments. So I didn't know about it. I saw the press release the same way everybody else did. I have no insight on anything else. I'm just saying that to me, it looks pretty standard when I cross compare things that I follow, both in professional environments. So to me, it looks normal, right? To everybody else, there's been a lot of chatter, but I'm not into that. So it looks normal to me.
So, I mean, I don't get why this is a big deal, right? Like, if you get approached by a better team, say, "Hey, come play for us. Come, leave your team, whatever." Why would that be bad, right? I mean, I'm playing ignorant here, but I mean, kind of covered some of that there. Bahgz, you look like you want to say something.
Well, I mean, it's what it can do on the, at least in the most obvious way, is it can completely say the best way to put it is it can completely disrupt the competitiveness, the competitive nature, the competitive integrity of the matches that still have yet to play out. Now. Right, you could a player who's like, all right, I'm guaranteed to be playing for X team. I'm currently playing for Y team. X team's better than Y team. I'm just going to mail it in for the rest of the season and not really think about it. Yeah, it's like that. That is the tip of the iceberg there, and that's the very first problem you would run into, and that really hurts the product for viewers and fans. That can be really detrimental when guys are just memeing for the rest of the season, so to speak.
Okay. I mean, you say it hurts the product for the people that are watching. We don't want to see the Cavaliers going to the finals every year, right? That's not something that we want to be seeing in HGC necessarily, right? We want to see some healthy competition, some cool storylines, and I mean, not saying that the Cavs don't have a cool storyline, but.
I don't want to divert too much, but the NBA's ratings tend to do really well when the same teams are really good.
Okay. All right, we're over here talking about real life sports, so we probably lost 4,000 potential viewers.
I don't want to divert too much, but yeah, parody's good. I agree.
All right, cool. So with that, I mean, anybody else want to add anything to that, or are we good? We good?
I'm good.
We're good. All right, we're good. Next bit of news, Bahgz.
Hit us up. Rosters are finalized, so if you go to the HGC website, I can shoot a link in the Twitch chat real quick. You can check out the rosters that we're going to be seeing come Phase 2 for HGC. Korea, EU, and NA are all listed in this article. And needless to say that even though there wasn't a ton of fanfare, at least for the amount of European changes there were, it feels like a lot of that did not get announced or leaked out on Twitter or anything like that until after this release was out, or this press release was out. So I thought that was kind of interesting. NA, I can't say the same, but EU had a lot of big changes, and I was surprised by some of them. I don't know if you guys want to talk about them or not, or you want to save that for later.
No, let's go ahead and just get right into it. I mean, might as well. We don't have anybody that's, we don't have a true EU god among us, but hey, we'll make it work. We'll make it work, yeah. Fnatic, Schwimpy's back on the roster, and they're adding someone from the Hero League ladder, Last Hope, onto the roster, and Quacknix and Bad Benny are leaving. What are your thoughts on that, JHow?
So for me, like the EU changes, the Fnatic ones, I feel they were coming to a head. I think that everybody could kind of see it. There was a lot of conflict, I think, in terms of the direction the team was going. Obviously Schwempy leaving at the end of the year. Now he's back. That's kind of the biggest thing is that, how did they fix that? And if you actually go back to BlizzCon last year, there was a video where Schwempy was talking about while they were boot camping, they had some issues. They were unable to resolve those issues until the very end. When they came to BlizzCon and things started to work out, but it was a very, open interview. And I think that kind of hinted at some of the issues that they were having.
Yeah.
So I think that, they kind of they went one direction. They're like, maybe we should have gone the other direction. So I think that, that was a change for them. Getting rid of Bad Benny, obviously he's done really well on the tank role. So much so that there was a lot of conversation. I had a conversation with Breeze last year in Sweden, and he was talking about how much he's able to pick up from watching Bad Benny and them doing some different things that, we saw Bad Benny's team do in the previous year. So, they had a lot of respect for him. And I think that just that melee role and maybe personality-wise, I don't know the dynamic there. Maybe it just wasn't quite working out the way that they wanted. So they made two pretty big changes. And one of them, obviously, again, I think it was just let's go a different direction than we think we should have gone at the beginning of the year. And then obviously Bad Benny for Last Hope. I think that's yet to be determined.
Sure.
I agree. Quackness came out with that nice tweet longer when they made the change, and they said that there's more to it than just, the tangible things you can see where players are popping off. Schwimpy's a very flashy player, right? There's more to it than just being a really solid mechanically player and looking great in the game. There's also the intangibles that you don't see that factor into these decisions, and he kind of hinted at the issues as well through that tweet longer, whatever. Irregardless, obviously, I was very against the changes. I felt like they were the second best team in the world. You could make the argument that even at BlizzCon, they weren't even performing at their best. They looked so great at the midseason brawl. And it just seemed, I don't want to say it seemed crazy to make changes, because obviously if you're trying to be the best team in the world, you need to try something to kind of get over that hump. I just didn't see the changes that they made. I didn't see how all those puzzle pieces would fit. Nothing kind of clicked where when Dignitas made their changes, you looked at it and you're like, that looks on paper like it could be really good. And it's showing so far that it is. So Fnatic's kind of waffling. They're doubling back on it, like JHow said. They came to a fork in the road, so to speak, and they could have went one way and they went the other, and they didn't like that. So now they're doubling back and trying something else out. And Bad Benny never really looked comfortable or didn't look as successful in that solo laning role as he did as the main tank for Expert. So those moves make sense off the top of my head. Fanatics are kind of like the biggest moves, the biggest surprise. So those ones, obviously we're going to give the most conversation. What do you think, Goon? I mean, looking at it.
Man, I was going to try to get away from this without talking about it, man. I didn't want to. It's one of those situations. You say you come to a fork in the road, you make a U-turn, you make some changes. The way I see it, it's one of those moments where you're sitting in your living room watching some TV, and you see some headlights coming in through your blinds. You look, and you see someone making a U-turn in your driveway. And you're like, hey, what's going on over there? What's happening? And then the guy backs out and goes back the way he came from. And you're like, that's what I thought. All right, cool. So we're seeing this. Okay, Quack, they brought in Bad Benny. They got rid of Schwimpy, right? And then now Quacknix is leaving. Bad Benny's leaving. Schwimpy's coming back, and you're like, interesting. I wonder what the dynamic there between the teams, what that looked like. I think Bad Benny's a great player, great tank player. I don't think he looked very comfortable. I feel like he never really settled into his role this last split in the off lane, as well as other players did. So I think this is a healthy change for Fnatic. I like it. I want to see where it goes. And to bring in somebody from Hero League on the ladder to come play on arguably one of the best teams in the world, at least organizations, that's a big jump. That's a big move.
That's huge.
Yeah. And to have the confidence in this player to come play with you guys, like, that says a lot for the guy's skill and maybe his mentality towards the game, and maybe how the open-mindedness of the rest of the team to allow this player to come on and play for them. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to see how this turns out. To be honest, do we think Fnatic is a stronger team, a weaker team, or kind of staying the same? I know they have a new person that we've never seen play before. But
that's the X factor. Schwimpy will probably take the team in a different direction, play style wise. But Quacknix and his drafts were kind of notorious for their very macro oriented, their very global style play style. Yeah. We'll have to see what kind of evolves from this. And again, X Hope's going to be kind of Last Hope is the X factor. So it's tough to say. I'm going to say it's even for now. I mean, I'm just going to even, not up nor down.
What do you got, JHow?
I will say that it'll probably look similar to the way we thought Tempo looked earlier, except they'll be behind Dignitas. So if they draft similar to a mix between Fnatic and Method right now, which is where Shrimpy's at, it'll be a lot of random stuff that they have enough talented players to throw everybody off, and it'll look good, but it doesn't always do well at international competition. So I think it'll fall somewhere between they could look good while doing it, and they might do well at international, to they might still just be a second or third place team, and they can't get over the hump. So we'll see.
That is such an easy answer, dude. All right. No, I'm just messing with you. All right. Moving on. Method. Schwimpy and Arcaner are both leaving, and they're bringing Bad Benny and ADRD onto the roster. JHow, I'll start with you. What do you think about this Method change?
I mean, it's just the same as what we had before. So I think it'll look pretty similar to what we saw before. Obviously, Shrimpy and Arcane are going different routes. They bring in Bad Benny, they bring in ADRD. The one thing that Bad Benny can do well in that position is to look strong. ADRD, we know what his teams generally look like, especially draft-like. So, I mean, I think they'll be a strong contender, and I think they'll go back to being a very, very normal team. Right now, I mean, we've seen the Kerrigan, we've seen the Tracer, we've seen a little bit of everything from that team, and I think it'll look drastically different. But we also said that before when they made the change. So just going back to normal, I think.
Okay. Bahgz.
Now I don't have all of it in front of me, but it's literally just Experts Phase 2 roster from last year, correct?
Yeah.
It's literally they just went back to what they did, what they tried out there last year, which is cool. So you like JHow said, we kind of know what we're getting with that roster. We've seen it before. It's probably, if they can get over the hump past Fnatic, it's probably the second best team in EU. I guess we know what we're getting, I guess. So I think it's going to be a better roster than what they had just now, and the chemistry was there. So I think it's going to be a better roster, yes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a better roster than what they had previously, and it's going to be a better version of themselves than what we had last season, right? these guys have been on different teams. They have different team experiences now, different play style experiences with other players of other other team, and they have all this knowledge that they've gathered, that they've accumulated during that time, and now they're coming back. Now it's the comeback, you know. Now it's the class reunion, so to speak, and I honestly think they're going to be stronger because of those experiences that they've gained, that knowledge that they've gained. And be better team players, and probably, I mean, I'm thinking number 2, baby. But
I dig it. I don't necessarily disagree. I dig it.
Okay. All right, and then we have Team LiQuiD. Splendor is leaving, and Arcaner is joining.
Who's playing support for that roster? That's what I want to figure out.
Nurok.
Is it Nurok? Okay.
Did he already announce he's switching to that? Okay.
Yeah. He's been spamming it on stream and been talking about it, so.
Okay.
I dig it.
I will say that Arcaner coming from ANZ to EU, for me, like seeing that transition that he made and how well he stacks up compared to the other high level EU pro, like I love watching this guy play. It's fun for me. But what do you think about this change, Bahgz? Do you feel any type of way?
So it's a role swap and a new player on a new team, so it's kind of tough to say. I really liked Team LiQuiD post Clash. They performed they were really strong. They did really well. Splendor was really, really strong support, so it is kind of tough. It's tough to say. I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna go with side grade for now. I'm going to go side grade. I think they're going to still be the 3rd, 4th EU. Or 4th, 5th, rather.
Okay. What you got for me, JHow?
I had a lot of issues with Team LiQuiD last year. If you go back to the middle part of last year and then them moving forward, there was a lot of Lost Vikings. There was a lot of Zarya. There was a lot of what can we do that was weird enough to break out and do things differently. And the same way that I talked about other things, like that was like really at the broad end of the spectrum. And I think the hardest part with those compositions is people eventually just figure out how to play against them. I love those compositions, but not 2 to 3 times per series. That was their problem. Because you could see they actually had a really good record, and then once everybody figured it out, their record plummeted. And it was just they couldn't figure out how to make it work anymore. This year, they've had a different approach towards drafting, and I actually think it looked much, much better. And so their approach to the game, obviously the meta has changed quite a bit, but their approach to the game, I think in general in drafting, has actually put them on a huge upswing. I don't know if the roster change is really going to make much difference, but the fact that Nurok is putting in the amount of time that he is and dedicating himself to his craft and allowing the rest of the team to kind of work into that, I think that's only a very positive thing. And, you know, so long as the rest of the team members are putting in time and work and trying to make things happen, then I actually think that's a roster that, you know, depending on how the next Clash goes, they could be competing for one of the top 3 spots to go to BlizzCon. So I actually think just from a team perspective, as they continue to evolve through the year, I think it's really good. So I think overall, it's less about the roster change and more about them, the commitment to their style and mentality, and
right.
You know, to see the commitment that Nurok has put in, I think is a very positive step for their team.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. That's actually, you know, very strong point, kind of like what we mentioned earlier. The amount of dedication, the hard work that these guys put in, and you've seen it, you know, because they hit some dark times, you know, and then you know, for them to continue growing, and like JHow said, you know, they're on an upswing. Adding a player like, I think, Arcaner, who has shown a strong work ethic, coming from a minor region to a major region and keeping up with the best and continuing to improve each and every day, and then with Nurok's dedication to improving that new role that he's playing, I think that team's probably gonna be all right. They're gonna be all right. And let's do we want to get into a monkey menagerie at all, or do we just go right?
I don't have anything to add to it, so.
I don't think anything stands out there.
Yeah. Just Feels bad. All right, Zealots. Quacknix, or I'm sorry, ADRD and Mopsio leave the Zealots, and Quacknix and Robodoba are taking that are joining the team. I feel like Quacknix going to that roster and Robodoba going to that roster. For me, it feels like it's one of those. I guess we'll go here. That's how I feel about it.
That's how you interpret it.
That's how I interpret it, but.
So I guess that's one way to look at it, right? So for Robodoba, it's kind of a step up, right? So he's working his way up the standings. Quacknix, it's a major step down. He's now on a team that's no longer has an org. I will say that, unless I'm mistaken, I believe, Quacknix was the shot caller for Fnatic, and I'm of the opinion that team seemed to always make the right decision, even decisions that weren't obvious, to the casual fan, obviously, but weren't even obvious to other pros. Like, the core calls that Fnatic would make would bail them out of games they were losing all the time. So that veteran level of expertise and experience coming to the Zealots, I think, will be huge. And then there's arguments to be made that Mopsio has made incredible improvements to his character, but there were moments in game where his decision making kind of left you scratching your head. So it's to be seen if Robodoba can replace him and improve the roster in that respect. So
okay,
I think it's overall an upgrade for the team, but I see what you're saying where. For at least for Quacknix, it's like I guess this is where I land.
I think the thing about that team though is if Robodoba plays in the sense that he doesn't have to be a playmaker, they already have somebody that plays alongside that with a very good hero pool of Zarmany.
Yeah.
So I feel like they have Chris, who is I was hyper critical of him over a year ago. I was like, I just don't see it. Whatever he's been doing since then, I've been seeing it, and it showed a lot. I think for his team, he's killing it, and I think him and Quacknix, I think they might overlap a tiny bit on certain heroes, but I think that's a good thing. I do wonder how their hero pool will look on whether they can break out. You'll have a very, I think, established meta, and I think that they'll have very narrow hero pools. But I think that it's one of those things that's a good and a bad thing. So long as they pick up a couple of like random heroes that they can kind of mess around on and kind of disrupt the norm in the middle of a series, I think that's going to be good for them. But if they get Robodoba and Zarmany to just play a standard frontline, which again Mopsio would go out of his way to try and make some plays, and it's just like it's chaotic, right?
Yeah.
And I think that with that style, depending on where Quacknix lands in terms of his expectations with the team, I think they're going to have some growing pains, but I also think that that's probably a team that has the highest ceiling. And they also have a very low floor. And I think that's the scariest part with this team is they could easily be a 6th place team or they could easily be a 2nd place team. And it's just a matter of how quickly they can gel, how much time they put in, and how they do, I think, personality wise to make sure that they make this work. Because I think that the dynamic of that team can very easily work. It's just a matter of, do they have the right mentality as a unit to get everything out of it? Because if they do, then I think it's really good to have Quacknix and Chris on the back line. It's kind of the old Schwempy quick Quacknix style, but a little different because Schwempy would always flex onto some weird stuff. So it's a team that I'll definitely be watching to see how well they can do.
DB Smiley in chat brought up an interesting point. He said Quack obviously didn't want to leave Fnatic, but I still think Zealots is a great roster. I wouldn't be shocked giving Quack's presence if they get an org based off Quacknix being there. How likely do you think that is? I mean, do you feel that Quacknix has that star power to bring in by himself to bring in an org?
If you have one marketable person and you can win, that's fine. If you're a team that's not winning, doesn't matter how big your star is.
That's a good point.
Yep, that is what it might come down to, right? So that's what it all comes
down to.
It's the difference between like a regular org and then like a large org. I don't know, like if Zealot starts winning and they have the star power there. Chris has a really good stream. Quacknix has a good stream and good personality. It only really requires 1 or 2 people to really kind of put you on the map. So if they can win, they have 2 faces of that team. I don't see Zarmany put a whole lot out there. He's a pretty quiet guy from when I met him. Robodoba, obviously he's got a good story, and then Shad, we remember him from Clash, but it's not like they go out of their way. But I think they have a couple of really good personalities, and if they can win, then it makes it that much easier.
Okay. All right. Is this stronger, weaker, in between?
Potentially stronger, but potentially the same. I mean, to be honest, I don't think they can get much worse. I mean, we can reference their run at Western Clash, but overall, they had a losing record. Overall, they had a really good run, and it looked like they might be able to pull some stuff off. But if you look at the core elements of it, and I think, did they reach their ceiling? Yeah, I'd say that team probably did as well as they possibly could, and I don't think they would get any better. So I think that their potential is higher now. So I would say that they have capabilities to get there.
What about you, Bahgz?
I think they're better overall. I think they're better. There's always a chance that they won't be, but I think I'm going to lean in it's safe to say they're better.
Yeah. I want to say they're better, right? But it depends on how much motivation there is going into this roster for this next split. How much of a, I don't want to say wake up call, because that sounds a little harsh towards Quacknix, but how much motivation is there now that you're not on Fnatic anymore? You kind of, hey man, we need you to come over here now and let somebody else get on the roster. I wonder how much of a factor that is in motivating him, and in him motivating the rest of his team to perform, to do a really good job this coming split. So I think they do have that in them, and I'm hoping to see a very, very, very strong performance coming out of these guys. We'll get into this next. Let's talk about the next team here real quick. Leftovers. Lauber leaves. Mopsio joins. Bahgz.
I don't think that it's going to make a market improvement or a big detriment to them. I think they're going to be in that same pickle, that 7th to 8th spot, unless something drastically changes.
Yeah, I really got nothing. It just seems like nothing changed.
Yeah. I think they'll be right where they were, to be honest, as well. All right, Diamond Skin. Robodoba and Roskmeg are out. Raid Boss and Minecraft are in. JHow, start with you. Same thing?
There's nothing that stands out of this to me. I mean,
yeah,
I got nothing.
No,
I got nothing.
That's fair. Bahgz.
Well, it's nice to see Raid Boss back on the team, because this is the team he started out with way back in the day, before I think there were health concerns. And he couldn't do the phase 1 of HGC 2017 or something like that. So It's nice to see him back. And then he obviously made it in with TGG and got crucibled. And now he's back.
Now he's back. So, in general, as a whole, do you guys feel like Europe is going to be pretty competitive, pretty strong, or are we going to have an even wider gap between the top and the bottom? Is it going to be a cluster in the middle?
Personally, I still don't see, unless some things click. Last Hope really surprises. Zealots really just kind of something clicks there, and it just works. I don't see any of these rosters. We know what Method is, and that team doesn't compete with Team GOONHOTS, right? As it's constructed now. So unless I guess the real X factors are Fnatic and Zealots, in my opinion. LiQuid maybe has that potential, but I don't see it. So those are the two variables. There's Zealots and Fnatic. If something clicks, we can get a big 3 again in EU. Otherwise, I think it's Dignitas and kind of everyone else.
Okay. We good? All right. Go ahead.
That's pretty much how I feel. Yeah.
All right. So I don't want to spend too much time in Korea. I just do want to say that Mary Day's back. He's going to be
Nacho Jin,
and he's going to be playing on Blossom. I don't care about anybody else. Mary Day for me is our Lord and Savior Messiah. I'm a support main, so that's how I feel. I mean, is there anything there that you guys want to talk about as far as Korea? I mean, you
I just want to say welcome back, Hong Kono and Nacho Jin. That's all I got.
If Hong Kono can lay off some of the meme play, I think they'll be a good team. But at least he has Mary Day to support him, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Do you think Blossom? The question is this: like with these changes, does Blossom have enough to kind of like crack the top 3 and like overtake Tempest? Because none of the big 3 made any changes, so I don't know. I don't. I still don't know if it's there to kind of like get into that 3rd Korean spot, but.
I think it is. The way Tempest plays is very similar to the way Blossom plays. Statistically, I look at a lot of things. Blossom was either 1 or 2 in the world in kills per game, right? So if you look at a team like Tempest, the biggest thing that they do is they fight, whether it's a good idea to fight or not. I think that's their biggest strength and biggest weakness at the same time, which is why, like, if you're asking me to pick them in a series, I'm like, man, hell, I don't know. Like, they might win, like, just because they might just take a team fight. And you're like, why is this happening? And then they might lose because they take a team fight. And you're asking, why is this happening? And I think Blossom got an upgrade in both elements of they are just they have even stronger team fighting. And whether that smooths out some of the rough edges that they had last year, or this past phase, I think that's a definite thing. That as long as Mary Day is still the Mary Day we remember, and you have Hong Kono can just dial it back a little bit, but still play the aggressive role that he has, I think it's an upgrade. So, and it would just not necessarily be like they're going to kill more people. It's just they might not die as much. And I think that's one of the things is if they can do that against a team like Tempest, then I think it's really good. I don't think they can match Genji. And Ballistics is always going to continue to play the macro style and just be like, good luck team fighting us because we're pretty good at that, but we don't have to. So I think they can easily get top 3, compete for it anyways.
Okay, awesome. I'd like to see that. So, and then at Miracle, I don't know, the return of Nacho Jin. I just love his name, but I don't know if this is going to get Miracle back to that mid-tier Korean team, or if they're still going to be like barely out of the Crucible team. I don't know. Other than that, I've got nothing.
Some wild stuff tends to happen in Korea from time to time, so who knows? We might even see Genji Crucible, baby. No, I'm just kidding. We're not gonna go that far. But I mean, it's wild. It's wild. Argy said in chat, Hong Kono's been casting all the teams for 6 months. He'll know what to do for every team. Will he? I mean, I don't know. The meta might change. The patches are different. Heroes are out that weren't out, all right. So moving on from that, let's get to the real. Let's get to the real meat and potatoes. Let's get to the point we've all been waiting for.
Everyone's in chat for, right?
Yeah, everyone's in chat. Let's talk about China. So I'm just kidding. We're gonna talk about NA, North America. North America. So. Team DJ. This was the former Gale Force eSports team. Fury and Akaface are both gone. Kieran Dansky take over. Bahgz, how do you feel about this change?
Mixed, I guess. Okay. I don't really like it. Like, they'll never say it out loud, but I don't really like the Kier Dansky package deal that seems to be happening. I'm not a big fan of it. I feel like it, even for themselves as players, it kind of paints yourself into a corner. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't have all the information, but I feel like it really limits your flexibility for team construction and your ability to kind of, again, construct a team that has a ton of potential. And that's nothing, not to take anything away from Kieran Dansky. They're both fantastic players. We saw it last year on Team Freedom for sure. But it's, I don't, harping on that, getting away from the package deal thing. As for the moves, I don't know. There's role swaps. They lost the tank and the support player for that team. So I don't know. I guess Udall will be supporting now. Is that I understand that correctly, right?
That's correct.
Who's tanking? Who is playing the main warrior?
LiQiuD is going back to warrior.
Going back to warrior. Okay, that makes sense. So I don't know, man. I can't see how that's just down. I don't know. I guess there's an argument to be made that they'll still be middle of the road because the bottom it's not hard to be above the bottom. So I don't know. This could be a Crucible team or it could be a middle of the road team. But I don't see any higher than that. This is not a BlizzCon bound team as far as I'm concerned. So
JHow, he's hungry. He wants to say something here.
I mean, I think for Gale Force, it's like one of those things where it's when you're good and you're really good and you can ride on confidence and you can ride on skill and you can get away with it. But do you have the other intangibles of discipline, professionalism, and all that other stuff that get you the package deal to be the top team? They could very easily, I mean, if you guys remember, Gale Force after break last year made some changes and went on a win streak, right? And then they suffered some adversity and then they were never the same. I think they have the potential to ride the wave. How long and how big that wave is, I don't know. I think they have the potential to just kind of take a long time to figure it out, and it might take too long. I have no idea what to expect with this team. Like, I literally have like zero expectations of, are they going to be the number 1 team or are they going to be the number 8 team? I really doubt they'll be number 8. But it's a matter of, do they have what it takes to be the full package deal? And I think that the elements are there. It's a matter of whether they put it together or not. And so to me, it's like, I'm sitting back and watching the same as everybody else because I could very easily root for this team, or I could very easily see this team like, okay, here we go. Like, I don't know, but I'm excited. I'm excited nonetheless. I mean, I think that every team in HGC, you know, you've got friends and you've got people you dislike, and I guarantee there are people on all ends of the spectrum with this team. And no matter what, like every week, somebody's bringing it to this team. Like somebody's bringing it. I think that's one of the more compelling stories, is that the interest, no matter what level you're at, will be high. And that's for me, like the biggest part about this team is like the amount of joy to either root for or against this team will be there.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be fun.
So
it's gonna be a polarizing roster, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm hearing here is that there is a lot of potential there, a lot of energy, a lot of, you know, there could be some serious explosions going on. However, there's also a lot of chaos surrounding that potential, a lot of chaos surrounding that energy. So what is the opposite of chaos? Order. If you can harness all of that chaos, all of that energy, and in a structured and orderly fashion, and have everybody on the same page, have everybody performing to the best of their ability, and understanding that this is more than just themselves and this is a team thing, I think this roster could be pretty dope, honestly. However, it's going to come down to how can they harness all of that energy, all of that chaos, put it in an orderly fashion, and go on from there. They're going to need a support staff, an excellent support staff, in order to make sure that happens. They're going to need a coach. They're going to need some good managers. They're going to need that stuff. We saw what happened when GFE started crumbling, and you know the players started to their mentality started to kind of shift from focusing on the game to, am I going to get a paycheck? You know, if that support staff is there, they're gonna excel. And they need a good coach. They need to understand that the coach is there to help make a solid team, to put them all as team players. This is a unit. He's not here to be better than you at the game, but I don't know. Go ahead.
I don't know if I'll be curious if they feel they need a coach. I think that they have enough likeness amongst each other. And again, they can ride that high, ride that vibe for quite some time. So
Yeah,
I don't know. Again, I don't know any of the dynamics, right? I'm not sitting in on scrims. I'm not getting information from anything else. I don't know if they have a coach. I don't know if they have a manager. I don't know anything. But I feel like they're a team that will look to rely on each other, and I think that they can pull that off. There's very few teams where you can get 5 people together and be like, these 5 personalities could conceivably work really well together. It also could combust at any moment, but as long as it doesn't combust, like, it has a lot of potential. So I don't know. Like, I think that's why it's so compelling to see how this team does.
And that's the thing for me. You know, it has a lot of potential as long as they don't combust. Well, like, sometimes all it takes is one moment, and if you have that safety net, if you have that foundation there, moments like that won't make you combust, so to speak, more often than not.
It's definitely better to have somebody manage those personalities, but it's also incredibly difficult when we look at the dynamic of the age and the difficulty it is in this type of environment. I think that's a very tough thing to do. I mean, I look at a team with personalities, and I look at a team with very neutral personalities like Dignitas. Dignitas is one of the more neutral personality style teams that we have, and they also have somebody that fits that style in their coach, and Nabi, who has done an amazing job for almost a year now. And I think that they have a very good complement of coach and team. And I think that's a hard dynamic to find. And if you look at the way Dignitas has performed, they've evolved around that. And they've continued to evolve around that. And I think that's why they're such a good team, is that they have the right balance, but they have the right blend on all elements. And I think that's hard to find. I mean, I think you could look at any sport and say that that's hard to find, is to find a coach that matches the personality and vice versa, and have that truly like symbiotic relationship of saying that, hey, we work well together and you do things for us and we do things for you. To find that dynamic, I think that's really hard.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point.
I think that was really well said.
Yeah, that was awesome. So, yeah, I'm curious to see how that works out. I hope that we see some more Michael Udall support in Hero League. That's what I want to see, because I don't want to play support, dude. Play support for me. And I'm just kidding. I'm not up there.
That's me in every game.
But yeah. I'm excited to see what happens. All right, so moving on to LFM. Or actually, before we do that, stronger team, better or worse team in the middle. And I know we've kind of touched on this already, but I want the final answer. We kind of hinted at it. Bahgz.
In the middle. I don't think they're going to be any better than they were. I think they're going to finish similarly where they were before.
I think it'll be peaks and valleys. And I think that if you have the same peak, the same size as you have your valley, it still leaves you in the middle. So we'll see if they can, how high that peak is or how low that low is.
JHow with the most neutral answer. God, why are you here right now? No, I'm just kidding, dude. I'm just messing, dude. I'm
painting you a picture. Tune in, HGC, 3rd week of June to find out.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to say they're probably right in the middle. They have the potential to get up a little bit higher, but I think they're going to be in the middle for sure. All right, so let's move on. LFM eSports, Draded and T leave. Fury and Droplets are in. JHow.
They're a better team. I think that's pretty obvious. Figgy's moving over, and if he adopts his role well, I think at times he showed that he had a very good understanding of what he wanted to do, and then he had a good understanding of what he was trying to do. It's just it wasn't always on the same page as the team. I think Fury can shape people around him on that front line. He will be giving direction. I think that he's got enough experience that there's no way that team can't be better. How much better, obviously, is going to be a big question. I think Draded was a sleeper for a long time. If anybody tuned in to the second phase, I was talking Draded up quite a bit. So he's getting an opportunity with what we would say is a better team, a very proven team. So I think that they're going to miss that. So I think they're going to miss that element of it, but Droplets will be hungry enough. He's new. He's obviously been trying to work his way in, so it's not like he was gifted this. So he's been working his way in. So I think they've got Fury, who's trying to prove a point, and Droplets, who's going to be trying to prove a point that he belongs. It's hard to imagine that team's not going to be better.
I'm going to be sad to see Specialty go, or T. I really enjoyed his mage play. I remember it was the very first Crucible and the very first Open Division playoffs, and just watching him play Li Ming and just being astounded, like, and just, you know, I'm like, get this guy a paycheck, man, because he can play the mage. So I'm kind of sad to see him go. Traded again. He earned his promotion, so to speak, onto Team Octalysis. And kudos to him. I think with LFM holding on to the core of the team, Hero is still going to be around coaching the team. So much respect for Hero and what he does. I think this is going to be a good move for Fury. I'm sure maybe, I don't know. I've had a conversation with that Fury briefly at BlizzCon. I don't think it's going to, like, as much of an ego check for him, you know, kind of going down to LFM, as much as it's going to be a good fit for him. And I think the team, it was showing improvement at the end of the phase. They won their Crucible match. I think we're looking at a much better team, like JHow said, and I think I'm going to peg them. They're going to be similar to Team DJ. I think they're going to be kind of middle of the road, which is obviously that's a step up in the right direction for them.
Yeah, I feel that LFM is probably going to be a stronger roster, much stronger than they were before. Yeah, Dread is no longer there, but I think with the hunger and the dedication that Droplets has to the game, we're really not going to be, there really isn't going to be that void, right, that's there. With bringing Fury on to main tank, that is even better. And one of the Twitlongers that Fury made, he mentions Michael Udall and how he respects him as a player. However, he didn't like his approach to the game, or it didn't allow Fury to develop his leadership style and to I guess make leadership calls the way he wanted to in an environment like LFM, where the team, the roster is younger in the scene, and they have a very strong support staff. Hero Physio, a great coach in my opinion. He's going to be able to bring that out of Fury and mold that in a way that's going to allow Fury to bring success to this team and allow Fury to play the game in the way that he wants to, and that team's going to look a hell of a lot stronger. But
they need a better meta than what they had before, I can tell you that much. Yeah.
I mean, hey, as long as we're not seeing the Probius, I think we're good. That's one of Hero Physio's. That's one of his things. Just kidding, love you. All right.
I don't think Hero's in chat tonight.
Yeah, well, he'll see this later for sure. So stronger, weaker, in the middle. What do you think?
I gave mine, so
LFM stronger, no doubt.
Okay, all right, cool. Yep, stronger for sure. All right, moving on. No tomorrow. Equinox gone. Akaface in. What do we think about this one, gentlemen?
T-God is back on the Melee Assassin. That's about all I got.
I am super excited about that, by the way.
I think Tomster's probably one of the more mechanically gifted players that I've seen. It's just I don't think he's been in the right situation almost ever. I mean, we go back a couple of years ago to that unfortunate King of Blades situation. Yeah. That was the story. The organization after that, and then obviously last year he spent with Lagif, and yeah, I think the environment was not great for him. You know, and now he moved over to support. He's been playing support. Now he's moving over to Melee. I think that he's got a lot of potential. I really do. I don't know if this is still where he gets his break, and there's only so long you can say, like, all right, at what point does that happen? Melee assassins aren't really a thing. I mean, you can look at Thrall, but if you're forcing Thrall, it's going to be countered. There's a reason why, you know, the likes of Blaze and things like that are at the top of the meta. Blaze, Dahaka, you know, things of that nature. And, you know, it's a role I focus pretty heavily on. It's a matter of what do you want out of that position? Do you want your backliners to carry, or do you want your offlane to carry, or do you want him to play more of a I'm an enabler? And I think that if you look at the best teams in the world, that Melee is an enabler. Like, there's no doubt about it. Any top team that you've ever seen has had the offlaner be an enabler, not the star. And I think that even if you look at Rich, right? You look at Rich back at BlizzCon a year and a half ago. You know, he was forced to play Leoric and Chen and things like that. It did not look good. I mean, we're talking about one of the best players, most respected players in the world. But if you ever looked at a top team, that melee role is strictly an enabler and a part-time playmaker, not the other way around. It's not a playmaker and part-time enabler. And I think that's one of the things that we're back in a double warrior meta where you need to protect the backline and let them do work. And I think busting out the Thrall every so often is 100% okay. Busting out the Malthael, we saw how that worked going into the Clash. That did not work. It didn't hold up. And I think there's a big reason for that in our current meta, and I don't see that meta going away. And so I think that that's the biggest problem that I see with a lot of people in that position. Any great team that we've ever had has had that melee. You could look at Wubby. You can look at the various teams that have always had that element. And so I don't expect him to be the standout star here. And I'm afraid that they're going to go down the route of let's make plays happen. And I don't know what to make of that yet. So
let's see the Kerrigans pop back up again. And I wonder what his Maiev looks like too, because
I'm okay with a one-time Kerrigan, a one-time Thrall. Maiev is one of those things where Maiev is generally being played by one of the backliners.
Yeah.
But then you see weird drafts around that. I think if you're going to go Maiev, it might be double assassin time, because you can't go Maiev doesn't put out the same type of damage. I don't know. That's another story, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't know how I feel about this change until I see it.
Okay. I mean, even I thought Tomster played a pretty good support. I was always like, damn, he's making some stuff happen. This is pretty cool. Now you're bringing on Akaface to that support role. Okay, even we know that he's known for his melee play, Tomster that is. Do you think he has the skill and the hero pool, I guess so to speak, to maybe play those backliners more often that we tend to see on a regular basis with that Akaface support? Do you think we're gonna see that? Is Akaface's support good enough to support a Tomster ranged?
Tomster will be strictly melee, if I'm not mistaken.
Is he strictly melee? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's strictly offlane.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I'm talking about is him being the enabler, right?
Yeah.
I like Brawl, Kerrigan, stuff like that. Maybe once a series, maybe once a weekend, maybe a couple times depending on the meta. But when we start to look at what's traditionally worked, we look at Blaze, we look at Arthas, we look at Leoric, we look at any number of melee that's up there. Even ETC can be an offlaner for certain heroes. Where's my secondary Tyrael play? I don't get a lot of that. Dahaka is up there. So Sonya, who's borderline assassin, right, can fit into a lot of compositions. That's the current meta that we're in. That's the one that's working. So I actually have some stats out there of comparing the warrior role versus the melee assassin role, and I think there's probably only one melee assassin or two in the world that really are above 50% win rate, while all the melee is sitting at like 48% and above outside of a few cases. So we look at meta and we see what's working universally versus what's not. And I think that's a very telling story to me.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's very, very true. Damn. Make Thrall the #1 melee assassin, please, Blizzard. All right.
Make Thrall great again.
Make Thrall great again. Oh god.
He's still pretty good.
Yeah, he is pretty good. All right, cool. So is this one of those? And this is no tomorrow. And we know that there have been some issues with the team dynamic on that roster in the past. Is this a team that we see crawling out of that bottom 2 range, or are they going to be hanging out down there for a while?
I don't know. I think LFM is going to be better than No Tomorrow now. So I think No Tomorrow is still in that crucible precipice in that range. They're at the bottom. We're near it. 6, 7, 8, that range.
6, 7, 8 would be the likely place, but again, depending on how other teams approach the game, and we've seen teams kind of come out of nowhere and really develop some good habits, but yeah. I don't know if this is going to be the one. I would like it to, but I don't know if it'll be the one.
Okay. Well, JHow makes a good point. To be fair, No Tomorrow did catch us off guard going into Western Phase 2 last year. They came out like a ball of fire. Just missed the Clash and just missed BlizzCon. I think they finished 4th. So, could happen.
The thing is that Casanova is, I'm not kidding, man, probably one of the best players that we have that somehow is on a team that doesn't perform well. So it's obviously a very team oriented game, but Casanova is like the diamond in the rough that it's like, look, when he breaks out and if he breaks out, don't be surprised, right? Like, do not be surprised if all of a sudden you're like, holy like this team is like killing it and Casanova is murking people, right? Like, he could be one of the most underrated players that we have. And again, it's just if they can find the team dynamic there, like, don't be surprised if they do well and he's the reason why, you know? So it'll be fun.
Definitely. Yeah, okay. All right. So moving on, Team Octalysis. Kieran Dansky, as we said, are going to Team DJ. Prismaticism makes a comeback. Draded fills that last spot there. Bahgz, what are your thoughts on this one?
So it's very similar to last year's BlizzCon team, except Draded instead of Glaurung, right? I believe, if I remember correctly, and I don't know if Yipboss is still in chat, but I believe on the show he said they didn't really intend to get rid of Prismat. It's just when they were in talks with Dansky, Kier, also a free agent at the time, kind of chimed in and said he would like to join as well. And that's when they made the hard decision to sign Kier and release Prismat. So obviously that didn't work. One path was traveled. It didn't work out. So now they are going back and pretending like they never went down it and trying the other one, right? So, again, Draded, I think, is a special player. I think he's going to find a lot of success on this team. Prismat's back in the team. He fit really well in his role on that team. So it will be kind of, I think this is going to be a step forward for this team. I think that coming into the season, I was on board with Octalysis kind of being the best team in NA. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. I didn't have it. Obviously everything in Tempo clicked like they planned, and it worked out great for them. I didn't think it was going to at the time. I think that Tempo will probably still be the best team in NA, but I think Octalysis is going to firmly be the second best team in NA. And
really,
even though, yeah, I know Team Freedom didn't make any changes. I'm the big Team Freedom homer. They were really good at the beginning of Phase 1. They're still on the cusp. I think that this is going to kind of like firmly put them.
What about Heroes Heart, dude?
He's just skipping second place.
No, I think this is going to put. Well, Heroes Hearth makes it tricky. That's a good point. That's tough. I'm going to give Heroes Hearth the edge for now because we haven't seen what Octalysis can do with this new roster. But I think they're going to be better than they were. So it's going to be close. It's my final answer.
All right. All right.
It's not always about talent. It's sometimes about how people get along. I mean, I've seen public comments out there, whether it's on Cure's stream or somebody else, putting stuff out there. And I think that they work well. Again, when we were talking about LFM earlier, I talked about how Draded for me was, I talked about him a lot in the second part of Phase 1, where I thought he was a really standout player on a very subpar team. I want to see more, right? What I've seen is good, but what I want to see is more. Draded I put out a graphic shortly after HGC ended. Draded was like top 4 in terms of Genji KDA. And for a team that died a lot, and I mean a lot, he somehow had the 4th or 5th highest KDA or something like that in the world on Genji. Averaged up there towards the top of kills. We're talking about with people like Rich, like Fan, names like that, right? So it's like, all right, it's cool that Genji's there. Genji's had a few nerfs, but do I get the consistency? Do I get the consistency that I'm looking for? Do I get the ranged assassins like the Hanzo, like the Phoenix right now, the heroes that we have kind of at the top of the meta in terms of sustain? Do I get the Tracer, which I know that he can play? I think that they were limited by T's hero pool on LFM before. I don't think they're going to have that same issue here in the backline. So it's going to be something that we'll have to see how it evolves. Prismaticism, if we go back to the old days, you know, he was really good at Chromie. I think Chromie is terrible in our current meta. I think that very rarely does she fit. I don't want to hear that he's a Chromie god when Chromie should not be considered meta right now. So if I take Genji and I take Chromie out of the equation, what do I have left? And so for me, it's a matter of, it's not about what you can do, it's about what you're going to do. And so for me, that's one of the things is I want to see their meta. I want to see, are they going to try? Because if you ever heard me on broadcast, I was critical of how their core strategies seem to differ at times, and that they would have certain compositions where it was like, all right, this looks really good. And then the next game, they're trying something entirely different, and then it looks bad. And I'm like, okay, why don't you just like mix it up a little bit and then bring me that same type of mentality? And I get it. You have to have different metas. You have to be able to shake things up, but do you need to at certain moments? And I think there were times where they didn't recognize certain things against different teams. I don't know if JHow and Prismat, when you're talking about replacing two backliners with two very different hero pools with two very different playstyles. You know, Dansky played a lot of mages. Do you have a Medivh player in this composition now? Do you have different things to where you can threaten people? If you don't have a Medivh player, you're in trouble, right? So it's, I don't know what to make of this. I don't know where our hero pools are going to lie. I feel JHow was limited in what he did because of the backline hero pool, and it's not his fault. I think it was just the team. And Prismaticism was on melee last time, and he hadn't been, you know, doing the same style of things. And so meta for me is going to be very, very much the biggest point of this team. And for both of them to come in and have to be, like I said, I want my tank and I want my offlane to be enablers. I need my backliners to star. And so these guys have to be stars. And so we don't know them as stars yet, so they could very easily develop into them on a team like Octalis's.
For sure. I think Octalis's is, again, one of those teams with a lot of potential. With this roster that we're seeing right here, a team with a lot of potential. It's all about how disciplined can they be. Can they maintain that discipline over the next 6 months? And do they have the support staff to ensure that the discipline is there? And if it is...
They're a very structured team.
Okay.
Like, they are a very structured team. And I think that they have all... It's hard to fail, right, with what they have. I think that's the biggest part is it's hard to fail with what they have in place. If you look at Justine, Goku, and Buds, that alone, dude, I could go play ranged and we could probably win some games, right? Like, like that's already established.
That's a stretch. That's a stretch, actually. I don't know.
Hey, wait a minute. Have you seen myself games? I'm hanging up right now.
Oh no.
But then you look at bringing in, and I think that they have the right environment to bring in
Sure.
two ranged people. They have the coach, they have the management, they have the organization, they have the established players. So it's hard to fail. It's incredibly hard to fail with this team. But it's a matter of, is it hard to excel? And I think that right now they're in a very good position to make another run at BlizzCon. So I would not expect them, if they don't go to BlizzCon, I'd be very surprised.
Right on. Cool. All right.
What do you think, Goon?
What do I think? I just said what I think, and then, you know, I think it's going to come down to how well that structure stays in place. I'm not doubting that, you know, their structure. I'm not saying that their structure is shaky or anything like that. But you know, this team has made, this is the second time that they're making these two changes again. They're bringing somebody else back on, and it's like, okay, you let them go, you bring them back. Oh, you brought these guys on, now they're gone. Like, and Cure made a tweet longer that some team dynamics, some team chemistry wasn't there, and that it caused some problems later on. So I want to see them be able to, even if there is some conflict there, be able to put that aside and have somebody kind of step in there and mentor them and help them just say, hey, we gotta stay on this. We need to perform, and we need to maintain our discipline, and regardless of how we're feeling, we need to play the game, play the best of our ability, and work together as a unit. That's how I think about it. All right, cool. And last but not least, simplicity. Prismaticism is out for Team Octalis's, and Tiger JK manages to find his way back in. JHow, what do you think about this change? Does this make Simplicity a stronger roster? Do you think any? I mean, do you even think anything at all?
Their ceiling is higher. You know, Tiger JK, how much he's been working on his hero pool will be one of the biggest issues that they'll have. I don't keep track of his hero pool. I don't keep track of his practice schedule. So that'll be one of those things that I'll analyze when we see it. Obviously, with the role swaps that they have, I think that is where their strength lies. And as long as he can support the play style that they have, yeah. I mean, if they get on the same page, King Caffeine and Zuna, like being the aggressors, K1, statistically, has been one of the strongest ranged assassins on certain heroes ever. You know, it was almost 2 years ago when I'd first started working with Master League, kind of behind the scenes. It would have been like August of 2016. I was keeping track of stats since then and throughout all of 2017. And obviously, you know, here working with Blizzard and stuff, they give us a lot of tools to use. But I feel like him being on that role, he is historically, and that was, you know, that's stats before he won BlizzCon or after he won BlizzCon. I don't know before, right? But historically, he has been one of the outliers that you would look at stats, and if you did not put a name beside there, he'd probably be one of the last people you're like, all right, that looks like K1 could be here. And then you look at it, you're like, holy, like, how is this guy doing what he's doing? And on certain heroes, he's literally been one of the best ever. Now, I have stuff that I recorded a long time ago. I can back it up, right? But does it equate now to, you know, 6 months playing a different role? Is it in the current meta? Can they find the right formula to make it work? I don't know. So I think that right there, having him and Hosty has been a really standout player this year. I think that's really intriguing. Zuna, obviously, if you can reel Zuna in a little bit, we all know the meme there. If we can reel him in, then I think that they have the potential to, hey, look, one team fight, we take this, and it's like Tempest, except in North America. So we'll see.
Yeah. Bahgz, I'll let you go first.
The story with excuse me. The story with Simplicity is kind of the same. It's this team with like this vast amounts of potential. Like any team Zuna's ever been on, there's always this amount of potential. And King Caffeine and K1 to a degree too, because they won BlizzCon together, right? Like it's this team with so much potential. Every time, you know, the GFE squad last year, the Naventic squad going into HGC originally, there's always this potential for this squad to go gangbusters, right? Everything's just gonna click, and they're gonna start, you know, crushing nerds. But I don't know. You know, what's the expression? Like, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I don't really want to buy in. I don't even want to, like, you know, say that, you know, things are just, this is going to be great, right? I can't. You know, I think this is another 6, 7, 8 team. I think that they're going to maybe middle of the road if things click a little bit. But it's just, I don't know. I think consistency is going to be an issue too. So that's my opinion on the matter.
Yeah. From what I understand, that spot for support was offered to somebody else. That person turned it down, and then they kind of looked around and pulled up Tiger JK. So there's that. And then like you say, Bahgz, the consistency thing. There is a lot of old names on this roster. A lot of big names on this roster. We've seen them at their best, we've seen them at their worst, and we've seen them kind of wavering around down in there. I don't necessarily think this team, this roster, you could put 5 people with names all in one roster, doesn't necessarily make them a team. I think we're going to see them in Crucible range, and yep, that's that. So that's how I feel about it anyways. But all right, so with that being said, we covered EU, we talked about some Korea, we talked about NA roster changes. With that being said, we're going to move into our next segment. We're going to talk about some results. We'll be right back.
The hook is going to help out, and we're going to see Stitches fall as well. It's going to be a 1-for-1 trade.
It's a 1-for-1 trade as we once again have the Dragon Blade used on the side of Genji. He's trying that in. Dashes out, sail yellow.
That was just about the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's a dance party, and you're invited.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to HGC Western Clash.
All right, and we're back. So here we usually talk about results. We usually talk about HGC, the weekend stuff, Clash, whatever. Nothing really going on now. But, however, there was something that JHow did the other day. You want to tell the people about it real quick?
Yeah, I it was 2 years ago I did the 1v1 tournament. I figured 2 years later we should add 2 people to that. So we ended up having a 3v3 tournament. We did it with 4 community streamers and 8 pro players, and so we kind of did it like drafting kickball style. So we had like 4 captains that were all streamers. They drafted the pro players, which is pretty cool. We just did some ARAMs, had some unique rules around it to try and shake up the meta a little bit when we got into the game. So I thought it was really fun. And we did it all, I could have raised the prize pool. We could have done some things, and but I don't think anybody was really in it for that. I think I really wanted to do some stuff during the downtime. We had a little bit before midseason, so we did it raising money for St. Jude's charity. We started our donation goal at 1,000. We met that goal, and then some. So it was really cool. The community came out, watched it, had a little bit of fun. It was like 3.5 hours, but had a little bit of fun. Played around the whole Nexomania event. Did some stuff there. So I thought it was really fun. It was really just something to do in the downtime. I thought I'd try to make it unique. I started planning it like right at the end of HGC, probably before playoffs, and I kept working on it. I'm like, man, how far am I going to take this? And doing it all yourself is not easy. I got really tired because I was streaming and trying to do a bunch of other things, and so it was really fun. I'm glad it went well. I think it could have probably gone better, but it kind of gives me an idea on how to do something. I'll probably play in something again towards the end of the year. So it was a good time.
Right on. Cool. All right. Well, with that little segment there done, we're done there. We're gonna move into the next one, into our discussion topic. I'm not gonna play the bumper. We could just move right into it here. Let me do this here. Pull this up. All right. So, I have a couple questions here for JHow and for Bahgz as well, and for anybody here in chat. A lot of this is surrounding HGC and how to improve the watchability and the appeal of it, and what we as viewers, can expect. What should we be asking for? What does JHow do? But anyway, we'll get into it. So the first question I have for you, JHow, is in your opinion, in your very general specific, we're not looking to get too spicy, nothing like that. And you too, Bahgz, how do you feel Blizzard can improve the watchability and the appeal of HGC right now in its current state? What are some tools that we have available? Like for instance, for me, one of my biggest things is the amount of downtime there is in between games. It's like, bruh, you're killing me here, dog. Like, yeah,
momentum killer.
Yeah, it's like, it's hype, and then bam, whoa. What's going on in that downtime?
There was obviously, to address that, and I think that's a concern that, and again, I don't want to say that I'm speaking on behalf of them. I'm one of everybody else here too, right? They addressed that in a post just recently. They're making some changes to cut down the downtime between that. So that was addressed. So I think that'll be interesting. It's more about like making sure we have accountability towards certain people and teams, and the production crew is always working, and it's one of those things that we're always talking about at the studio, and we actually work really well with the production team. We're like, look, we can move the pace of this, right? So I think it's something that we, as people there being directly involved in it, we're all for it. I think that Blizzard has done a really good job of addressing that. So I think that people will appreciate that a bit more coming into this. I don't want to say that it'll be perfect. I think everything you do differently is always going to take time, but I think that everybody's got the same mindset that, we're all trying to make something, great here. And I think that we take all the steps that we're all trying to do. I think we're all on the same page to make that happen.
Right on. And my follow-up question to that is, can we please bring back the Stitches Hero Spotlight, please? I want that playing in between the games. I miss it. I miss all the Bible thumps in chat. No, I'm just Bahgz, what would you like to see from?
I can't really add any. I like the stuff I want. We can't have, and it's not necessarily to improve the watchability or the appeal. Like I would like to see like the playoffs on LAN or the Crucible on LAN, but those aren't things we would have them if we could. I feel like so. I think it's something that's kind of out of reach monetarily. So the things I want, I don't know if we can get. I think yes, improving the pace of play is certainly important. You can see with a lot of in traditional sports. Baseball is making drastic changes to try and improve the pace of play because the generation that watches esports and so just don't have the. Listen, man, time is money, and we got stuff to do. So we don't want to sit for 10, 15, 20 minutes in between games.
Baseball is an experience, all right? It's an experience. You go, you experience it, you have a good time, and anyways.
At the stadium. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I can't add much to that.
Yipboss in chat said that he wants ads during the break so the HGC prize pools grow. What do you think about that, Bahgz? And if JHow, if you have anything to say on that or not, that's fine.
He knows he can reach out to Blizzard. That's all I know. That's all I gotta say.
Listen, I made this argument once with Trent Esports, and I think the fact of the matter is that there would be ads if there was a market for it, and I don't think that the audience and viewership base is big enough for there to be ads. You can look at Overwatch League where the viewership is about 5 times as much, if not more. And they're sponsored by Sour Patch Kids and T-Mobile and Toyota, and like the list goes on.
League of Legends got that State Farm.
The State Farm, yeah.
Woo, boy.
So listen, I would love it. Like instead of playing ads for the characters that we all already own, I want to see something for Sour Patch Kids, man. Something first is sour, then the sweet.
I'm not gonna lie. I saw that commercial and I was like, I need to go to the store real quick. I need to get me some Sour Patch Kids.
Ads working as intended.
Yeah, exactly. But I just yeah.
Anyway,
but I don't think it's gonna happen. So that's a shame.
All right. And JHow, this you kind of touch on this a little bit. If you can go into it, cool. If not, that's fine. What role do you feel the casters and the personalities on set and associated with HGC? What role do they play in helping improve the appeal? And what do you personally? What do you feel is something you would like to do? I already say, I tell some people he's kind of like, when I think of JHow, I'm thinking like the John Madden of HOTS. And again, I just said John Madden. I dropped the real sports ball reference. We lost about half our viewership right now. But you bring in a certain level, an aura of commentary that reminds me of traditional sports, and it's something that people that watch traditional sports enjoy, and I think it's something that people that watch esports can enjoy. I look at League of Legends and the way those guys talk about the game, and I see some parallels between what you do, what they do, and I like it. It makes the game seem more professional, more profound. I mean, but what do you think?
First off, thank you. For me, if we actually go back to the first part, the one thing that I want to see more. So this is the hardest part, right? Like if I ask you name 5 people in a competitor MOBA that shall not be named, anybody that follows that esports scene can name me 5 people, and they might barely watch it. It's because I think that everybody already knows there's a contrast in that Heroes is the ultimate team game. Mm-hmm. You go over to other games and you have more individual stars because they have more room to shine. I actually prefer our model a lot better. I absolutely love the team model that we bring. I do, however, see stars that we have within our game. I see people that do things that still amaze me. Like, we'll get off camera and I'll be like, did you see that? Right? Like, there are certain things that we see, and it's really hard to represent that because, we have a very fast-paced game. We have a very team dynamic style game. When we can get into the replays, they've done the top plays, but obviously I'm a big stats guy as well. Developing stars, like, it's hard for me on broadcast to say, like, if I tell you right now that Wiz, the melee player for Blossom, averaged something like 2.3 kills per game as an offlaner. Does anybody know what that means? Right?
Probably not.
Okay, exactly. It's hard to put that into context because I've been keeping track of stats again for almost 2 years. 2.3 kills per game from that role is insane. Like, the average kills per game from that role probably sits somewhere between 1.1 and 1.5, which that's actually a very, very big variance. But if you're averaging over 2 kills per game from that role, and he does flex over to certain heroes at times, but if you're still averaging over 2 kills per game from that role, like, I'm watching that and I'm thinking, my God, I've never seen somebody this strong from this role. But it's hard for me to put that into context the same way that, Udall was getting a little bit of flack in the early part of the year. But quietly, he was performing better than almost anybody in our region. And I could show various examples, whether it's in game, but people care about results. Yeah. But if I give you a reason to say that this person's good, so I personally, we started to put up more stats, I think week 10 in the playoffs, or maybe just the playoffs. I want to be able to highlight different players, right? Like right now, I probably have the sheet open somewhere, right? But like Fan, like we all know Fan's a really good player, right? But does anybody know how good he is?
He's
stats for me are
good.
He's so good that it's almost impossible for me to say, hey, look, guys, like he might be the best player in the world. He's top 10 in kills per game, top 5 in least deaths per game, second in the world in highest KDA, second in the world in KD, top 15 or 20 in hero damage per game, and we're talking a pool of 120 players. Like, he's literally in the top of every statistical category, and you can argue, all right, well, it's in this region. Well, I could say the same thing about Korea. The bottom 4 of Korea is not that strong. Same thing, like Europe is all over the place, and they're very macro heavy, so all their stats generally look worse than everybody else across the board. But if I can find some way to give you an example of what is a good kills per game rate, what is a high KDA, what is a high KD, things like that. If I can start to find ways to bring that element. As a caster, it's hard. I can give you these stats, and if you ever hear me, I'll say that I'll try and quantify things in a very general term, so that I can give some context to it. But I feel like if we can start to develop that, it's really something that I would like to develop, so you can develop individual stars. You always have to have that one person. You don't go to a movie. The biggest movies are not the full ensemble cast. That is, like, there's normally 1 or 2 people that are always going to be better. The same way that I'm okay with there being a bad guy. I mean, if you take a children's movie that's like you're watching Finding Nemo, right? We're showing this to 4-year-olds. There's a bad guy in the movie. Like, I got bad news for you. There's a good and bad in every story that's ever been told, right? And I'm okay with elements like that. I need ways to find these people that shine, right? I need to find ways to show that there's like a good side and a bad side. And I'm okay with those things. And I think that we're working towards that. And so as a commentator, like I don't trail down that line. I try and bring a lot of positives to what I'm seeing. I want the people watching the game to know that what they're watching, despite the memes, is still one of the best players in the world. And you can bring in anybody off the streets and they won't even hold a candle to them, right? And I think for me, that's one of the things that I'm trying to do as a commentator. So I'm hitting the first question and the last question, is that I'm finding ways to help bring more appreciation towards that, so that when they watch and they tune in, like, not everybody wants to watch and tune in. And I'm going to be very blunt. Nobody's going to watch to turn in and be like, oh, what is No Tomorrow doing, as they, went through the second part of phase 1. Not a lot of people are tuning into that. They might because they're casual fans, but are they turning in? But if I'm sitting here and all of a sudden I've got Casanova and I let you know that at any moment in this game, it could turn because of one individual player, and this is how I can prove that he's a good individual player. And all of a sudden you're looking at, like, how you might get an extra 100, an extra 500 viewers, like, depending on the viewer base, right? Of like saying, you know what, I probably wasn't going to watch this, but I'm a Casanova fan. I want to see what he does. I want to see if he can pull this off, right? And so for me, I want to find ways to present the statistics and build the story around individuals a little better, to bring in the feelings. Everybody has a favorite player, right? And this is the best way I can always say this, right? What sport do you follow? I heard somebody talk about the Braves, right?
Yeah, baseball, baby.
Right. So Chipper Jones was one of the biggest stars ever, right? Chipper Jones gets traded. Guess what? You like that team all of a sudden, right? Like, because you cared about that individual. They might not be your favorite team, but you're following his career.
Chipper Jones gets traded. I'm burning his jersey. That's what's happening, dude. That's what's happening.
He does. But either way,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like Michael Jordan gets traded, Peyton Manning gets traded, something along those lines. All this, like, you look at Peyton Manning, he went from the Colts to the Broncos. All of a sudden, you have a world full of Broncos fans. Peyton Manning goes away. Nobody likes the Broncos anymore. People care about individuals, and for me, that's one of the things. Is I want to help build the individual stars a little better.
Yeah, no, that's you. I couldn't have said it any better, dude. You did your thing there. You did your JHow thing. I think honestly also being able to establish like, hey, these players are elite. These are elite players. You are watching elite Heroes of the Storm. You're not gonna see 80 deaths in the game per team. Right, like in my standard Hero League game, you're gonna see some high level stuff, some deep strategy that you can learn from, that you can apply to your games as well. And I think when we are promoting, when we're talking about HGC, you know, we need to have that mentality. The average Reddit user probably doesn't. I saw a response today on Reddit. You know, somebody was like, oh, but, you know, it was about a hero release or something. Anyway, somebody said, but MSB is in a couple weeks, or is coming soon. Maybe they'll release something there. And there's, like, a bunch of questions, like, what is MSB? I'm like, wait, what? Like, whoa. Monk ass. But, you know, I think being able to just say, like, hey, when you load in the game, you see your Heroes eSports tab there. This is the elite. This is the best of the best. We're not expecting you to play like them, but hey, you can learn a thing or two from it and really improve the knowledge of the game base, and that's another rabbit hole we can go down. But right on. Let's move on here. And I was going to ask you, you know, obviously this is something improving the appeal of HGC, the watchability of HGC, getting people involved. That's something that you think about, and it's obviously something Blizzard is thinking about, which is cool, which is great. A lot of people out there, the ship is burning, we're sinking, whatever. But hey, we're all actively thinking about it. That's good for us. Is there a certain way that I guess Blizzard tries to like help, you know, I don't want to say push you guys, but kind of help promote certain ways to make the game more appealing, HGC more appealing, or is this something that you just develop on yourself, like on your own? Do you talk with the other casters and just be like, hey, you know, maybe we should be focusing on this aspect some more? How does that work out?
All of the above, really. I mean, okay. We communicate with Blizzard. I mean, we work with them and for them, you know, at the same time. And I think, you know, we have a very good relationship, and, you know, we have ideas, they have ideas. And I think that it's a pretty good relationship. I think everybody wants something from the other, and it's the same way in any relationship, whether it's business or wherever you're at in life. And,
sure, yeah.
You know, I think it's good. You know, amongst casters and stuff, we definitely have different things that when we get to events or whether we're at the studio, we say, I'd like to highlight this, I'd like to push this narrative a little more, and we come to each other with different things, and that's all stuff we talk about every single day we're at the studio. So I'd say that everybody's making a lot of the right decisions and has the right mindset. I mean, look, man, this is our job, right? Yeah. And so if my job doesn't exist because I'm not very good at it, you know, there's a problem. So I think we all work towards that pretty well. And I think it comes from all in. So I think that we probably address that probably more than people realize.
Right on. All right, cool. So what's your desired end goal? Like, what's your end game when it comes to like eSports, HGC? Like, what are your hopes and dreams, man? What do you want to see? Stadiums? Hell yeah.
Why not? I mean, I think that we have one of the best. I've played a lot of games in my life, man. A lot of games, right? And I've never been as captivated as I am. And, you know, I think that a lot of people were in the mode of you want to be the star. I mean, you go play a game like Fortnite, you don't play to be second, you don't play to be third. It's an individual game, right? And I think, again, that's the part where in Heroes, we don't necessarily have that individual style. We implemented the MVP screen, and I think that's nice at times. And I think that gives people that personal and self-gratification that they didn't have at the early part of Heroes. So I think that does, certain things from a mental aspect, right? I realize we're a long way off from those moments, but I think that, the same way I saw somebody talking in chat about how they, we have the Western Clash in LA and Burbank in August. I don't think people, if you've never been to an esports event, if you've never been to a Heroes event, I think that when you can see it in person, like, you appreciate it a lot more because the energy is entirely different. It is a much better feel. It's one of the best things in the world, man, to see a game that you love. I mean, I was at Dorm, right? I wasn't casting Dorm, and I'm sitting there. I was in the Burbank arena, the esports arena, or the Blizzard arena, for opening week of Blizzard. We didn't have an audience. And so I didn't know what it was going to be like. And then I was there for Heroes of the Dorm, and, like, you feel the game. You feel the emotion. You feel the casters. You can see things on there. Like, it's a pretty amazing feeling. And I mean, I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I still love it. Like, you feel it. And I think it was a very different aspect that I was able to enjoy and appreciate. And I think it's one of those things that it continues to evolve. And if you can build those connections and you can find ways to get people involved in different ways, I think that it'll help. I don't know, games are constantly evolving. MOBAs are a thing that we're kind of like the last generation of probably top tier MOBAs, like, I don't see new MOBAs coming in. Right. And I still think that we have all the elements to make it happen. So I don't see why we can't, strive for more. I mean, hell, this game's amazing, man. And I think when we can start to, appreciate that stuff. And again, it kind of goes back to the earlier part of this conversation, is give somebody a reason, and I think that's kind of our job, is to give people a reason to care. And you give those people a reason to care, they stay around, they start spreading it, and it works organically. So we'll see.
Right on. And you say the energy, seeing the energy that's there, man. I remember BlizzCon. We were there, and we see Tempo Storm on stage, and they're taking games off of Fnatic, right? And the hype, like, even the player, like, I remember seeing Psalm just, like, shoot out of his chair, just, like, super hype, and I felt that. I was like, bro, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. It's pretty crazy, and people are like, oh, it's a video game, but how is that any different than cheering your favorite football team as they get first down? It's like, I don't know, but anyways. Cool. And the last question I have for you is: California really as bad as everyone makes it out to be? What's been your experience out there? I mean, I know you're a Southern boy.
So I'm originally from Kentucky, and then lived in Florida for 11 years. And so I feel like I've experienced country life. I once lived in a town with 600 people, right? It doesn't get much smaller than that. So I've lived in the city of 50,000. I've lived in a city of 600. Then I lived in St. Petersburg, Florida. And now I'm here in SoCal, where there's like 1 billion people. So I feel like I'm hitting all the different dynamics of United States living. One, I honestly didn't think the driving could be this bad. Like, they're actually terrible. Like, it scares me to get on the road around here. I've never in my life been scared. I mean, I've driven to New York City, right? They're aggressive as hell and make you want to hit the brakes every 2 seconds, but you're fine as long as you just adapt. You move out here, you're like, I don't know what's happening. Like, it's scary. But it's really weird. Like, I actually, for the first 3 months I was out here, I didn't really get out of the house because I was working. So I don't know. Like, the weather's really nice compared to Florida. Like, wintertime, it was the same, but now I look at Florida weather, it's like 85, 90 degrees and humid. And here it's still like 70, so I'm cool with that. I don't think it's good. It's good, and the food's really good. The driving's terrible.
The food is good. I'll give you that much. I'll let it slide this time. All right, cool. All right, and then real quickly, we'll move on to our preview here. Talk about the midseason Brawl coming up. What we think we're gonna see. We'll keep it short. We've been going here for a while now. I know JHow's probably getting a little hungry here. Bahgz, I'll let you do your thing here, buddy.
All right. Mid-season Brawl starts soonish. June 9th. So what's that? 10 days, roughly 11 days.
Yeah.
In Sweden, Group A is Gen G, which is formerly KSV Black. The org has rebranded. It's now Gen G Esports. Also, Tempo Storm, Fnatic, The One, Ballistics, and Mindfreak, which is formerly known as Nomia from ANZ. The Group B region is Team Dignitas, CE, Tempest, Heroes Hearth, Method, and the Horizon Clash winner, which was Loli Meow. I don't have we don't have the notes updated, but it's Loli Meow. DB Smiley provided some predictions, apparently on Twitter. He believes Gen G is going to finish in first, Ballistics second, Fnatic third, Tempo Storm in fourth for Group A, and then Group B will be Team Dignitas, Tempest, CE, and Heroes Hearth. So he believes NA is going to make it out. Both teams going to make it to the playoffs. You guys have any deferring opinions on those predictions brought to us by DB? Or I'm sorry, mathematical simulation computer results.
Both North American teams should 99% make it out.
I was looking at it earlier. I think North America is gonna show well at the midseason brawl. Honestly, Heroes Hearth is playing exceptionally well. Tempo Storm we know is already really good. I think that China, as they showed at BlizzCon and midseason brawl last year, are just kind of like of the four major regions, they're far and away probably fourth best at this point. So I think it's safe to say NA is going to make it over. The question are any of the NA teams is NA going to do, is Tempo Storm going to do better than Fnatic? I think that's going to be close, and I'm kind of actually leaning towards Tempo Storm outperforming Fnatic. We'll see, but it's the way I'm leaning.
Yeah, I think Tempo Storm is going to do better than Fnatic. They didn't make any changes. They're playing solid. They're playing some really, really, really strong Fortnite, by the way. All their players are playing Fortnite on streams. But yeah, I honestly think we'll see an NA team in the finals, baby. I believe.
Ooh.
I'm going that far.
I hope so. I forgot to mention this earlier, and it crossed my mind. How do you guys feel about the roster changes happening before the midseason brawl? Now, I understand there's not a lot of time for it to happen after the midseason brawl, but it does seem to be a little bit of a conflict because, similar to last year, last year Yoda was already off Roll20. In his case, he used it as a stage to kind of show off, hey, this is what I can do. Sign me up. The changes are already done now at this point, so it's do you think that has in our case, Heroes Hearth and Tempo Storm did not make any changes, but does that have a negative impact, do you think, going forward? If, Fnatic's not playing with the same roster. So, are these players going to be demotivated? I don't know.
Go ahead.
It's a weird subject, I think, for everybody involved. I don't really know what to make of it. I'm personally not a big fan of it, but given our schedule and the way things work, obviously it's the most optimal way they could come up with. So whether it continues this way, I don't know. I think most people would probably like to see a change. They did make a change at the end of the year.
Yeah.
1
week
end of the year
after.
rosters are different.
Yeah.
I think one thing to keep in mind, because we have a mid-season brawl and an in-game tournament, it's weird, right? Because we look at roster swaps in a way of they're different, right? And, depending on the organization, certain ones have buyout clauses and things like that. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like getting trades mid-season. The only problem is we just have a large tournament in the middle of the year, so I think it's a little hard. So I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot that I want to put into that.
Yeah, it's definitely unfortunate. Maybe one day we'll see more roster stability, more org stability, and things like that won't necessarily happen. And maybe if there are some roster changes that occur in that period, maybe these teams will pull from their bench, right? Their bench, so to speak, and they'll play at these clashes and at these events. But that's the dream, baby. That's the dream.
All right, I dig it.
All right, cool. Anything else you want to add on that?
No, that's it. I just I meant to ask it earlier and I forgot till now.
Right on. Cool. Well, oh no, go ahead. Go ahead. You were gonna say something else. Somebody was gonna say something else. No, we're good. All right. Cool. Well, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and end it here. It's been a long stream, and like I said, everybody's hungry, myself included. So everybody, thank you all for listening to Trollin HGC, a weekly podcast about Heroes of the Storm eSports, a member of the Trolls.gg Entertainment Network. We stream live on our Twitch channel here, twitch.tv/TrollsGG, every week on Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Bahgz, where can the good people of the Nexus and of Twitch find you?
Guys, you can find me on Twitter at Bahgz HGC. Mostly just kind of tweeting out pictures of my progress on the property as I slowly try to build a house. You can also watch me stream on twitch.tv/Bahgz. Not streaming right now, but feel free to subscribe because that will be happening once the stream room is built. In due time. As well, if you enjoyed tonight's show and are interested in Blizzard's other esports offerings, consider subscribing to the Weekly Blizz, where my buddy Gwaz and I cover all of Blizzard's esports and can be found on all podcast sources. Goon, where can people find you?
For me,
out of order.
No,
I went out of order.
Yeah, we went out of order here. JHow, where can the good
Wait,
people?
I'm still here?
Yeah, you're still here.
Don't tell that to Bahgz.
Where can people find you? What do you got going on?
Twitter, JHow Gaming, which is on the screen. And then I've been streaming quite a bit. I do a lot of educational content, VOD reviews. I've been doing coaching. I'm opening up free coaching. So if anybody's interested in that, just don't be a support player. And you can find me there, JHow4444. Been trying to definitely stream a lot more. So those two places are kind of the main thing. Awesome.
Cool. And you guys can follow me on Twitter at GOONHOTS, G-O-O-N, HOTS. There I post pictures of my dog, talk about HGC, throw a bunch of eyeball emojis at people. I also stream twitch.tv/GoonHots. I do Bush League casting. We do coaching. We do coaching on stream, VOD reviews together. Have a good time there. And I'm going to be streaming Hero League more often, trying to break into that 3K master. And on YouTube, GOONHOTS, you can catch some of my other stuff I've done there too, VOD reviews as well and as Bush League casting and some of my rants on HGC and other things. But thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the show, you can support us in a variety of ways. We are on Patreon at patreon.com/TrollsGG. And we want to give you a special thanks again to our chieftains, Super Dave and Preston, who we just added today. Thank you very much. Follow us on Twitter at Trollin HGC for show announcements and Heroes of the Storm news. And again on Twitch, twitch.tv/TrollsGG. And subscribe to our show on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. Make sure to tell us how we're doing by commenting on any of the aforementioned platforms or giving us a rating. Visit our website at www.trolls.gg, read our articles, and catch up with podcasts on demand. And if you need to get in touch with us, our Twitter DMs are open. Mine are personally also the Trolls, the Trollin HGC Twitter DMs are also open. Or you can email us at trollin@trolls.gg. Thank you very much for everybody that came and hang out with us. JHow, thank you for taking the time to talk with us. Greatly appreciated. And Bahgz, my boy, it's always a pleasure to have you on. And to everybody out there in the Nexus, have a good one. Take it easy. We'll see you next time, ladies and gentlemen.
Peace out.